Corinne, the Chaotic Good Paladin, and welcome to my May 2022 TBR video. I have not posted a TBR video in several months. I would like to, apologize for that. I did film a TBR video last month, and then you guys know how much I hate editing these videos, so I try to film them as coherently as possible, so I have as little work to do during post as there could be possible, but even then I still hate editing. I get distracted by the internet and by everything else under the sun. Also, I've been working really hard on writing my own book lately, so I haven't really been reading very much. But when I'm not reading, I don't really like to make videos for you guys because it's well, then what is there to talk about if I'm not reading? So because I was writing a lot, I wasn't reading a lot. So I only read 2 books in March. I will put their covers up here. One was Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welch, which is a YA contemporary about a girl who goes to Italy to spend the summertime with her father. And while she's there, she discovers she finds her mother's diary, essentially, and she, goes around the city learning about all these things that her mother saw and stuff. It was very cute. I love it a lot. I gave it 4 stars. I also read Ruby Holler during the month of March for Readathon, which is to read a book with a destination in the title, which was a book that I loved a lot when I was just a young bean, and I found a copy of it for very cheap because I don't have my copy anymore, and so I picked it up and I reread it for Readathon. Didn't do Readathon in April. I was going to read From Little Tokyo with Love by Sarah Kuhn. I got 100 pages in and I was just kind of bored of it. I'm not officially DNFing it yet because I feel like it's more me than the book. I feel like the book itself is fine. I'm just not in the mood for that sort of contemporary story. Even though I literally just read Love and Gelato. But, I don't know, I'm in the mood for something a little bit grittier, like a thriller or a fantasy maybe. Did complete the Magical Readathon, finally. I finished my very last book just this morning. If you guys don't know, the Magical Readathon, hosted by G over at Book Roast, is formerly a Harry Potter readathon, and she has taken it and made it her very own thing, she's made up this whole other world, and these races, and this whole thing, and this whole storyline and everything, and it's so much fun, and I definitely did not want to film my TBR video without showing you guys that I could finish the Magical Readathon. I wanted to film my April TBR video and show you guys what I was going to read for the Readathon. That didn't end up happening, but I want to show you guys what I did read for the Readathon. The first book I had was to read a book featuring a romance, so for that one, I reread Always Human by Ari North, which is the most adorable sapphic romance ever. The next book I read was to read an intimidating book. So for that one, I chose Lion Crosspoint by Masatsugu Ono. This one I didn't enjoy at all. It was not only very boring, but also there's a disabled character in here, and it's a very ableist portrayal. It's a boy who has an intellectual disability, and it's portrayed very ableist, and he's just basically a prop for the other characters around him, and I just didn't enjoy it at all. But I read this one for intimidating read. Not to mention, the romance book was to study the subject of alchemy, and the intimidating book was to study the subject of inscription. My character Nia has decided to become an archmage, which was the closest thing I could find to teacher. The next book that I read was a book that's set on Earth for the subject of artificery. So I read Sisters by Raina Telgemeier. Technically a reread. The next prompt I had to fulfill was to read a book of short stories for the spells and incantations subject. So for that one, I chose to read The Indignation of Haru Suzumiya, which is the 8th book in the Haru Suzumiya series that I am reading right now. This one has not only 2 short stories, novella of the characters themselves, but one of the stories is of them publishing a zine, self-publishing an anthology. And so it has all the short stories that all the characters themselves wrote. So it's a story within a story, which is one of my favorite tropes of all time. The next prompt I had to read for was to study The Art of Illusion, which was to read a book with a trope you love. For that one, I chose An Ordinary Night by H.L. Burke. This one was super cute. I gave it another 4 stars. H.L. Burke is one of my favorite female authors of all time. I always end up giving her books either 4 or 5 stars. It was just a really cute, self-aware fairy tale. You know those fairy tales like Shrek that are like aware that they're a fairy tale? They're like actively trying to reference fairy tale tropes and stuff. Very cute, very fun. And the final subject that my character Nia had to study was the art of conjuration. So for that one, I had to read a book with a source of light on the cover. So I chose to reread Where Secrets Lie by Elise Edmonds. It's so good. I've reread it multiple times. As you can tell, it's very beat up now. I also got a chance to read it before publication and be like a beta reader for it and give her my feedback on it. And the only bad thing about this book is that now I have to wait 3 more years for the sequel. Readathons I'm doing this month. I'm doing Readathon again. Next prompt for this month is to read a book with read as many books as you can, but for me, I'm just going to choose one book that has a direction in the title. So left, right, in, out, up, down, etc. I'm also going to attempt the Asian Readathon hosted by Cindy. The Asian Readathon is going on through the entire month of May, and it's basically to read books by Asian authors and featuring Asian characters in Asian settings. Basically, it's like a month-long version of the Year of Asian Stories that I did a while back. This year, the theme is Everything Everywhere All at Once. So you want to try and read books by authors of different ethnicities and books with characters different. I'm not explaining it very well. I will link her announcement in the description box below if you'd like to check it out. Usually I would be a perfectionist and I'd be wanting to read 5 different books for all 5 prompts. Cindy has allowed us to overlap books as long as we read authors of different ethnicities for each prompt. I am going to, for the sake of my own reading tastes right now, I'm going to overlap some prompts. I think the minimum amount of books I would need to choose for that readathon is 2 books because I can't use all 5 prompts for one. I probably could, but I don't have any books that fit all 5 of the prompts. I'm going to shut up now. That was a very long intro, so I bet you guys are just very excited to get to the rolls already. So let's do the rolls already. If this is the first time you're seeing my TBR game, this is my Yuusen Honyomi TBR game. It is falling apart a little bit. I'm going to see if I can glue it back together or something. Basically what I do is I roll a die based on the color space I land on. That determines the genre or age category of the book I read. And then I pick a prompt from my little jar of prompts. We're going to do 7 rolls and choose 7 books. So we're going to toss her up onto the board and she's going to start. I think she starts right there. Roll number 1. A 3. So we can go 1, 2, 3 and get contemporary. 1, 2, 3 and get kidlit. 1, 2, 3 and get genreless. Let's go for a genreless first. And our prompt is, whoops, let's use that one that just fell out. Okay, genreless, and our first prompt, a book you didn't buy yourself. So a book I was gifted, or, yeah, a book I was gifted. Book number 1 in the game is to choose a book you didn't buy yourself, and it can be any genre. The one I think I'm going to choose for this month, which I'm choosing because it is the Asian Readathon, and I can possibly count it for the Asian Readathon. It is The Reason I Jump by Naoki Higashida, translated by K.A. Yoshida and David Mitchell. It's a memoir. Naoki Higashida, who is a young man with autism, and he answers questions like, why do you ask the same questions over and over? Why do you echo questions back? Why do you do things you shouldn't? So it's basically questions that neurotypical people have for autistic people, and he takes them and tries to answer them for himself. Roll number 2. 3. So we could go 1, 2, 3, contemporary. 1, 2, 3, fantasy. 1, 2, 3, adult. 1, 2, 3, adult. Let's go to fantasy. 1, 2, 3. Fantasy. And our prompt is going to be, I don't know if I have any of these. I might have to go to the library or something. But a fantasy book that's part of a series that I'm currently reading. So continue a series. Book number 2 in my game is to choose a fantasy book that is the continuation of a series that I'm already reading. The next book I will choose is The Return to the Kingdom of Fantasy, The Quest for Paradise by Geronimo Stilton. This is just a really cute middle grade series about a mouse who finds the Kingdom of Fantasy and goes on an adventure there and saves the Queen of the Fairies. And I don't know what happens in this one. In the first book, he went to the Kingdom of Fantasy and he helped the Queen of the Fairies. So in this one, he receives a letter from the Queen of the Fairies who wants his help finding the heart of happiness. But first you have to find the map of paradise. And it's the most fabulous adventure, and it's just really cute and adorable. And I love this series. I would go back and reread book 1 first before reading this one, because that tends to be my habit, is to reread book 1 of a series first. But I lent it to one of my students, and I haven't gotten it back yet. Roll number 3, and it's a 2, so we can go 1, 2 genreless or 1, 2 kidlit. I try not to turn around and go backwards if I can help it. Let's go 1, 2, and get genreless. Random letter generator. Book number 3 is to use a random letter to choose a book. So I have this 26-sided die with every single letter of the alphabet on it. And I will roll the die, and the letter that comes up has to be the first letter of the title or the first letter of the author's last name. All right, here we go. Boop. And the letter that came up is O. So we're just going to open up Goodreads. Here are authors whose last names start with O. We have Prophecy by Ellen O. We have Liesl and Poe by Lauren Oliver. Titles that start with O. We've got Ogre Enchanted, On the Come Up, Otherbound, Out of My Mind, which I have been wanting to read lately. My 6th grader read this book recently and loved it and was like, you need to read this book now. Oh, and it counts for Buzzwordathon. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to choose Out of My Mind by Sharon M. Draper. This is a middle grade contemporary about a girl with cerebral palsy, I believe. And she is non-vocal, so she has never spoken a word in her life. And most people don't think she's capable of learning. So they've basically just been giving her the same alphabet lessons and preschool level stuff. And she wants to speak up and tell people what she thinks and knows. But she can't talk or walk, and she's stuck in her head. That makes her go out of her mind. That is until she discovers something that will allow her to speak for the first time ever. Which I'm assuming is an AAC device. If you're not familiar, an AAC device is basically assisted communication. They can type it out and then it'll speak for them. So it's basically a machine that speaks for someone who can't speak for themselves. I forget what it actually stands for, but I know it's something assisted communication. That's what I'm assuming it is. So it counts for Buzzwordathon because it has out in the title. I can read it and talk about it with my 6th grader who recommended it to me, especially because the school year ends in May. So if I don't read it in May, I have to wait till August to tell her about that I read it and be like, I finally read this one, Jordan. Roll number 4. A 1. So let's just go 1 and get kidlit. And the prompt is, use this one that I'm holding. Ah! This one's also fun. It's random page number. Not sure if you can see that. Random page number. So here's a random number generator. I think the shortest book on my TBR is 100 pages, so let's just do between 100. And I believe I have some books that are 1,000 pages, like Game of Thrones and stuff. Hopefully it doesn't choose 1,000. I'm hoping not 1,000, not 1,000, not 1,000. 616. Oh, that's such a big number. All right, let's see what 616 pages is on my TBR. We have Terrier, 581, The Well of Ascension, 590, Crestomancy, 598, and The Innocent Mage, 642. So off the top of my head, I don't know if Crestomancy is closer. I'm going to do the math. All right, so I just did some math, and it turns out that Crestomancy is 18 pages away from 616, and The Innocent Mage is 20-some. The Chronicles of Crestomancy by Diana Wynne Jones. I have absolutely no idea what this book is. All I know is it's about a family that knows magic. That's all I know. I also don't want to know anything about it. I haven't read any of Diana Wynne Jones' work in a while. Last thing I read of hers was the Howl's Moving Castle trilogy, which was very good. Except for book 3. I did not appreciate book 3 very much. She has a very whimsical writing style, very fun. She creates really great characters. I'm very excited. This book is huge, though. I'm not excited about reading a huge book. Roll number 5. Already? Wow. 1. Alright, so I guess we're going to choose an adult book now. A Perfect! I have found an adult standalone by an Asian author. Also for the Asian Readathon, there's one prompt that requires you to have a book with a female protagonist. So I have chosen Girl in Translation by Jean Kwok. I believe this is a memoir. So apparently this is fiction, but it's kind of based on her own experiences. So the girl in the story is named Kimberly Chang and the author is named Jean Kwok. So it's fiction, but I believe it is based on her experiences because it's about a girl who works in a sweatshop with her family after immigrating to America. And her biography thingy on the back says that she immigrated to Brooklyn and worked with a family in a sweatshop. So I believe it is based on her lived experiences, but it is a fiction story overall. I don't know much about this. When young Kimberly Chang and her mother emigrate from Hong Kong to America, they speak no English and own nothing but debt. They arrive in New York hopeful for a better life, but find instead a squalid Brooklyn apartment and backbreaking labor in a Chinatown sweatshop. Unable to accept this as her future, Kim decides to use her talent for school to earn a place for herself and her mother in their adopted country. Disguising the most difficult truths of her meager existence, Kim embarks on a double life, an exceptional student by day and a sweatshop worker by evening. In time, Kim learns to translate not just her language but herself, back and forth between two worlds, between hardship and triumph, heartbreak and love, and all that gets lost in translation. So yeah, it looks very good. I do enjoy me some historical fiction at times. And it's for the Asian Readathon, so I'm going to give it a try. Roll number 6. Let's hope it lands on big numbers so we have some choices as to where we go. The 4. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 genres. 1, 2, 3, 4. Kidlit. Since we wound up on Kidlit last time, but then it picked a gray background for us, let's go to Kidlit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Always in the mood for some Kidlit. So, Kidlit means YA or middle grade, which is basically my favorite kind of books to read. I love Kidlit. A magic system. Alright, so this is just choose a book with a magic system. The next book in our book game is to choose a book that is Kidlit that also has a magic system. And I just chose 3 books in a row that kind of intimidate me, so I've gone for a reread this time. And I will be rereading The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. It's about a witch who raises a girl in the forest, and I don't remember much about it, because I kind of just rushed my way through it the first time I read it. But I did give it like 5 stars, and it's about a witch, so it's got a magic system. And the final roll of the game already, a 3. So we can go 1, 2, 3, fantasy, 1, 2, 3, contemporary. Let's go to fantasy, 1, 2, 3. I'm really in the mood for some fantasy this month, I think. I'm always in the mood for fantasy. And the prompt is, ooh, this one's fun. A book that lights a fire in you. So basically that prompt means to choose a book about a trope that you like, or about a subject that you want to learn more about, or the topic of the book itself interests you. Fantasy that lights a fire in me. I'm keeping that in there. So I have chosen another reread. It's a bit of a chonker, but since it's a reread, I should be able to get through it fairly quickly because I already know I like it and I kind of already know the characters and the story and stuff. So it's easier to get through it a second time. And it is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I absolutely love this book. First of all, can we just appreciate this cover? This is like the prettiest cover ever, and I love it so much that I even got my hands on the Fairy Loot exclusive edition. It doesn't have sprayed edges, unfortunately, but it's got this beautiful purple cover. When my book is published, I want it to have a beautiful Fairy Loot edition like this one. If my future agent or editor is watching this by any chance, I want my book to be in Fairy Loot and have an exclusive edition in Fairy Loot. I've already read it before, and I rated it, I think, 4.5 stars, so I very much enjoyed it. It's been a lot of time since I read it last, so I'm kind of forgotten certain parts of the story, so I want to reread it to solidify the story in my mind, you know? Also, because my novel that I just finished writing is a YA fantasy about a girl who is exiled from her home, basically has to go on the run. And I'm using Sorcery of Thorns as, like, my main comparison book. Like, saying, like, oh, people who enjoyed Sorcery of Thorns would enjoy my book, too. So, I want to, now that I've finished writing my book, I want to reread Sorcery of Thorns to, like, I don't know, celebrate, I guess? I don't know. But I have been, the past 4 months, every month when I do my TBR, or when I attempt my TBR, I'll pick up this book and I'll be like, I should totally reread this book. And then for some reason I'll put it down again and be like, no, I'm not going to read it. I'm rereading this book this month. I swear I am. Oh, this is a chunky stack. These are all my books I'm going to read this month. Very excited about this stack. It's very chunky. But I should have some good books in here. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and comment on this video. That tells the YouTube algorithm that my content is good and that more people should see it. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, hit that red button down below, and hit the bell so you don't miss notifications whenever I upload a new video. I'm Corinne, also known as the Chaotic Good Paladin, and I make videos talking about the books you should be reading, so you don't have to spend hours scouring the New York Times or Goodreads bestseller list to find the next book you want to read. Farewell to all of my fellow paladins, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-me! Christmas song.